Alrighty, kia ora. Tēnā koutou katoa. Ka mihi mahana kia koutou, nau mai hara mai ki tēnei hui o Māori Standing Committee. Welcome Hirawini to our first meeting with the Māori Standing Committee. Really happy to have you on board. Oh, here's Karen. Kia ora. And John, nice to see you, John, and Shane and Scott will be having a chat to us as well. So with our meeting tonight, we've got a few things on the go, but we'll start with karakia. I might just put this one out if anybody wants to give us a karakia tonight. Would anyone like to give us a karakia to get us started? Cool. We'll just go with our usual one. Ka pai. Tukia te wairua kia rere ki ngā taumata. Hai arahi i a tātou mahi. Mā te tātou whai i ngā tikanga o rātou mā, kia mau, kia ita, kia kore ai i ngaro, kia pupuri, kia whakamaua, kia o tīna, hui e, ai ki e. Kia ora. So, firstly, we've got recording the meeting. Due to COVID-19, this meeting is being held via audio-video conference. All members participating via audio-video conference will count for the purpose of the meeting forum. In accordance with clause 25B of Schedule 7 to the Local Government Act 2002, the meeting is being live streamed to Council's YouTube channel. The meeting will also be recorded and, subject to the recording being of suitable quality, will be made available on Council's YouTube channel via a link to Council's website. Now, I might just give a moment to Hirawini to introduce himself.
Tēnā koe Narita, o te rā tēnā koutou. Ko ai tēnei, ko Hirawini a Munson tōku ingoa, he uri no Papua marae, no Ngāti Moe, te taho tōku pāpā, ai taho tōku māma no Hāmoa, engari i tupu mai au ki Warerapa, ki Papawai, ki te rāmarae oku, nōku te Waimarie, ko pōhiri te āhau, kia uru mai ki tēnei komiti, mohe ana hau ki ngā mahi whakahirahira nui e whakahaerehi ana e koutou, nō reira tēnā koutou katoa. Tēnā koe Narita, thank you for your mihi, thank you for your welcome and your karakia to open us up tonight. Just saying in the other language, my name is Hirawini Amunson. I'm an Uri, I'm a descendant of Ngāti Moe, grew up at Papua Marae, and now I'm a trustee on the PA with Matua Gillies. And I'm happy to be here as a second representative for the PA and looking forward to meeting you all in person eventually and connecting and getting into the mahi. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora, kia ora, ngā mihi. Maybe we could do a quick whakawhanaungatanga. Maybe Violet, would you like to start?
Kia ora Hirawini, ko Violet Edwards, hina tuku ingoa. No kuhunui marae.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Tony?
Tēnā koe Hirawini, ko Tony ko tuku ingoa. No tokarangi ahau, engari, so I'm here representing Hawariki Marae, which is a community marae. Kia ora.
Karen? You're on mute, Karen.
Kia ora, sorry about the delay. So I'm Karen Nikaida and I represent Paetu Mokai.
Kia ora, Karen. Yeah, I think you know Gillies. And Andrea.
Oh, tēnā koe Hirawini. Nau mai haere mai ki te komiti o Māori Standing Committee. Ai, he tika tonu. Haere mai.
Kia ora, and kia ora, Hirawini, ko Narita hupa tuku ingoa, no Paetu Mokai o Tauira. So Harry, can you put your screen on? Harry's our CE for South Harbour District Council.
My sons, kia ora, Hirawini, welcome on board. you're gonna love it. It's a great group, and yeah, lots of really interesting things happening. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Kia ora, Harry. Amanda?
Kia ora, Hirawini. Ko Amanda Bradley toku ingoa, so I'm the GM Policy and Governance. I've not been in the South Wairarapa very long. I whakapapa Ngāti Raukawa on my grandfather's side and married into Ngāti Hine in the north and Ngāpui. So kia ora.
Kia ora, Amanda, thank you. And Alex, Mayor Alex?
Kia ora koutou, Hirawini, welcome. The Mayor of the South Wairarapa, a member of this the Māori Standing Committee, and it's exciting times. And working with this Māori Standing Committee has been an absolute pleasure. So, thank you.
And to Jeppy?
Yeah, thank you, Narita. Kia ora, Hirawini. Welcome on board. I think Alex explained that it's going to be quite an interesting journey for you, so quite looking forward to working with you. By the way, I'm a councillor for the Martinborough Ward.
Kia ora, Jeppy. And Garrick?
Yes, good evening, Hirawini. I do know your family, and your father and I go back a long way. I'm Deputy Mayor and I'm the Councillor for Featherston, so welcome aboard. Great to see you.
Kia ora koutou. Now we're going to go to extraordinary business, and I've got to go and pull up this email just to make sure I get the wording right. The Chief Executive has withdrawn item 8.2, the Featherston Master Plan report, from the agenda. Now, the reason being is just after a lot of discussion, realised that report didn't actually need to be tabled at this particular forum for this particular committee. It's around the master plan, which is an extension from long-term plan, spatial plan, now we're up to master plan for Featherston, and Karen and myself as Paitu Mokai representatives on this committee have been in consultation with Ree and Russell and everybody involved in the project. So in lots of ways, it's a Featherston-centric kaupapa, and probably didn't need to absorb time on this particular night in this particular committee. So we'll move to apologies. So we have apologies from Pip Maynard, and I move that the apologies from Pip Maynard be received. Do I have a seconder? Kia ora, Violet. All those in favour, please say aye. Just raise your hand. All those against, please raise your hand. The motion is carried. Conflicts of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Ka pai. Acknowledgements and tributes. Does anyone have any acknowledgements and tributes they would like to make? And this is sort of acknowledging, I guess, someone who's passed away, someone who's received an award, a knighthood or something like that. Is there anyone that we want to make mention of? Ka pai. Did you have something, Violet? Public participation. So we have two people for public participation tonight. First off, we've got Shane Atkinson from the and John Bushell from the Greytown Trails Trust, and then we're followed by Scott Summerfield, who wants to talk about the discussion out at the moment by Greater Wellington around rates remission for Māori owned land. So Shane Atkinson and John, go ahead.
Tēnā koe Narita. Rau rangatira mā ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Kia tere ahau hei te mana hau ki te puari kaitiaki o te ara Kuratawhiti ko John Bushnell ahau. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. I'm chair of the Greytown Trails Trust, and given the short amount of time that we've got, I'll just give you a very quick thumbnail update on where we're at with the bridge, and then where's a specific issue that we'd appreciate your opinion on and involvement in decision making. We have spoken to you previously about the whole concept of the Tohiranekau Trail with its bridge across the river, and that is actually progressing very well as we speak. We have had a few COVID-related supply chain delays, but the bridge towers on the river are up. The deck of the bridge has been laid as we speak. The boardwalk is nearing completion and the associated trails completed. Planning for work on the landscaping is underway. We are in a process of looking for funding for additional trails for Underhill Road, where changes to land use have complicated our initial plans to simply use the roads. And we've been working, following up your suggestion of PO for the trail to mark the different sides of the river as we approach the new trails. You'll see from the documentation that we sent you that the PO concept has actually morphed quite a bit from where we started out in discussions about this. And we think we've ended up at what is really an amazing piece of conceptual art representing the flight of Nukupeopeo's warriors. I won't go through the written material that we've given you and the amazing graphics that accompany it, but we're at a point where we are keen to find a home for this, and we have grave concerns about the security and safety from vandals of actually putting a complicated piece of artwork down at the river a long way away from any kind of scrutiny. We've already had trouble with fly tipping and vandalism as we've constructed the walkways, and there have been difficulties there already, which have really just raised our concerns about this. And we really feel that with rather than a PO at either side of the bridge, with one very spectacular piece of artwork, it may be better located in Featherston itself, close to the beginning of the trail. And we actually thought that the optimal home for it would be somewhere like the Birdwood Street Playground, where the train tracks are for kids, which is really at the point at which the Tohiranekau cycle trail would actually begin. So there's a couple of issues. Firstly, we're really interested in your thoughts about whether the place we've ended up with a single piece of conceptual art meets with your approval. This is a process that began with our discussion with the Standing Committee. We've taken it, it's gone through quite a bit of iterations and reworking. And secondly, we would really appreciate your help to think about appropriate locations for it in Featherston.
John, can I just raise a point here? Look, we had a briefing from someone from the Greytown Community Board about the PO, and she mentioned to us the concept design, and we had asked her to see if she could give us an indication on what that would look like. So I guess what we would like to do and propose is that you give us a little bit more time, that is Papua, to consider your proposal so that we can engage with our own whānau and hapu around whether or not it ticks the boxes that we think it needs to meet. So before we actually go any further on this in terms of the funding and that kind of thing, but just want to make sure that we have the opportunity as a marae to make some contribution and input into the design.
Look, I think we will be very happy for you to take whatever steps you think this needs to find a proper home for it, and to find a proper sense of agreement about that this is actually a representation that you want.
Yeah, I think the concept around making sure that the PO is protected, I personally agree with it, but we just need a little bit more time around understanding the concept and making sure that we're okay with it.
Hi, Gillies. Yeah, amazing conceptual design. Like, you know, that's wow. But yes, that lead will have to come from Papawai whānau and Papawai Marae. Paitu Mokai is on the committee and for Featherston. Of course, we'd love to welcome another piece of amazing art to our main street, and we would look after it. Karen, did you have a comment to add?
Yes, I think it's really beautiful, and it would be really good to have it in Featherston because it is the beginning of the trail, and I guess Featherston is a gateway to Wairarapa if you're coming in from the Renumi-takas. But I'm just wondering whether it should be on the main road rather than tucked away around the corner in that park.
Sure.
For safety reasons.
I mean, that sounds like another discussion with Papawai whānau. But yeah, thank you very much, guys. Thanks for presenting that. Is there a timeline that you guys are thinking of now for the artist? Or
okay, John, do you want me to speak to that?
Yeah, yes, if you would, thanks, Shane.
Yeah.
You've been more in touch with it than me.
The actual construction time is only a couple of months, and there's possibly another month to get the thing packed up and down here. But what we do need, once we've got a sign off from everybody, is actually to do a fundraising activity. And some of the funding is being provided from the government shovel ready project funding, and that's got a limited horizon. So we really need to have the thing folded up within the next 12 months, or we'll run the risk of losing part funding, and that just makes it more difficult. The indicative cost is not inconsiderable. It's about $60,000 plus installation. So you can understand it's both valuable and as well as being beautiful. And we'd like to get all the decisions and sign-offs as quickly as we can so we can finalize the funding and actually order and install the PO while the funding's available.
Okay. Sounds good, Shane. Okay, well, you know, as our little wee group always meets every now and again, we'll just keep those discussions going, and we'll just keep it moving along, and we'll see where we land in the next few months.
Thank you.
Kapai. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
Rita.
Yeah, nice to see you both.
Yeah. Bye.
Next one, Scott. So I had an email a little while ago, and I emailed it to Karen, Gillies, and Violet. And that was around rates remission for Māori owned land. And so Scott is now here just to give you guys a bit more kōrero, a bit more added context to that. So go ahead, Scott.
Kia ora koutou, ko Scott Summerfield aho, ko tangata tiriti aho, po Māori. I'm going to very quickly just try and share my screen, which will hopefully work. Has this come up?
Yes.
Perfect. So what I'll do just very, very briefly is kind of step through some of the slides on this presentation. It's only a few slides long, and then I'll work with Katie to send some material out after the meeting so we don't spend too much time me working through slides. But as Nerida says, this is around rates remissions on Māori land. So this is a policy that all councils are required to have. So the Greater Wellington Regional Council policy it's a separate policy than it is for South Wairarapa District Council, but we both have a policy that covers rates remissions on Māori whenua. There have been a lot of changes to the rating of whenua Māori in the last year, and I'm not sure if you've had a presentation at some stage to talk about that. But a lot of land that had been rateable has now become non-rateable across the region, largely land that was deemed to be unused. So whether or not, if there had been some whenua that was kind of up a mountain and just covered in bush, rather than that having a rate on it and then remission being able to be applied for it, that land is now just non-rateable. It's also done things like made marae that weren't on Māori freehold land non-rateable and meant that there, for marae where there was more than 2 hectares for the marae property, that it's now the entire property. So I think Hoariki is one of the marae in the region that would benefit from that because it is more than 2 hectares total. So now the whole property is now non-rateable. As a result of that, we've been looking at our policy and have made some decisions or some tentative decisions, which we're now consulting on, about extending the scope of the policy beyond Māori freehold land and looking at other types of whenua Māori across the region where we could look to support owners with a rates remission. So there's 4 areas of new types of eligible land that we're looking at, and I'll just quickly run through what they are. And as I said, I won't go through all the points on the slide, but first is land converted from Māori freehold to general title under the Māori Affairs Amendment Act 1967. So for about a 7-year period, there were compulsory status order changes made from Māori freehold land to general land that affected land that was owned by 4 or fewer owners. It tended to be in urban areas, and we don't have a good record of how much land went through that process. But what that has meant is that the land that had been moved into general title was no longer under Te Tui Whenua Māori. It's no longer under the jurisdiction of the Māori Land Court, and it means that there was no kind of rating relief or anything available for that whenua anymore. The next area is around treaty settlement land. So most land that is transferred through treaty settlement, it's either being used for a commercial purpose or it has a protection on it that helps make it non-rateable under the Rating Act. But there are some bits of land around the country and in this region as well where you would expect it to be non-rateable, but because of the certain conditions of the settlement, it has ended up being captured by local authorities as a bit of rateable land. So we're wanting to make sure that remissions are available for some of those properties. The next area, and this is kind of where scope really starts to widen, is looking at land in general title that's collectively owned by Māori that meets the criteria of the policy. So at the moment, things like remissions for papakainga, wahitapu, other sorts of areas like this, they're only available for remission if they're on a Māori freehold land title. What this would do is mean that wahitapu in general title would be able to be eligible for a remission. And when we're saying collective Māori ownership here, we're talking about owned by a mana whenua entity, owned by a marae organisation, a hapu entity, something like this. And yep, so that's that area there. And then the next one is around Māori land under development. So there have been changes to the Local Government Rating Act that mean that even if a council doesn't have in their remissions policy this kind of provision, that Māori freehold landowners can apply for a remission for land under development. So that could be if they're wanting to develop housing on the whenua for whānau, or create jobs from the whenua, whatever it might be, to move it from land that hasn't been able to be developed, and whatever the barriers might be. It's removing rating as a barrier to getting that land up and running in a development sense. What Greater Wellington is proposing is that we would also look at that for general land that is collectively owned by Māori. So again, if you're wanting to do a whānau housing development, that's not restricted just to Māori freehold land. We could look at that on general land as well. The other 2 main changes are around lengthening the remission period from 1 to 3 years, so that instead of making an application every year, you'd make an application on a 3-year basis. And that's just around creating a bit more security on the fact that that remission's in place, so that you know how long you're not having to pay rates on that whenua for. And we're also suggesting removing rates postponements from the policy. Postponements are essentially that you don't pay rates for the year and that's happening at the time, but you do have to pay them in the future. And so it just ends up building a rating debt against land. And it's a big part of the intention of this type of policy is to remove rating debt on Māori land. So we're suggesting just taking postponements out. There aren't actually any postponements in play for Greater Wellington in this region, and they're very, very, very uncommon on Māori land across the country. So we're suggesting just to move them out entirely. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll stop sharing in a second, but just let you know that the consultation on this opened last week on Monday and runs through until Monday, the 2nd of May. We're really, really, really keen to hear from different types of Māori landowner around the place that might be eligible under the policy. both to hear how this kind of policy connects with their aspirations for the whenua, as well as what implementation of the policy could look like working for them. It's one of the things that we've found as a council is we don't have a lot of really good connections with Māori landowners across the region. So this is the beginning of a conversation around how we can work together to support aspirations of Māori for their whenua. Submissions can be made online by email or in writing, and I've got the email address here, but we'll work to get this sent around after the hui tonight as well. But just send us an email if you want to connect, if you want to bring whānau together, if you want us to talk to the marae community, anything like that. We're more than happy to have conversations around this policy and around what we're trying to achieve. But I'll stop sharing that, and if you've got any quick questions, then we can answer those.
Scott Gillies here, just to be clear from the presentation, are you saying that marae would fall within this policy?
Marae are already non-rateable, so you wouldn't need a remission because you shouldn't be paying rates on a marae. Now that's different for things like service charges. So if you've got water coming in, you pay for water services unless your local council's got a different policy about that. But yeah, so marae are kind of one of the bits of land in Urapa as well, also non-rateable. But it's kind of the papakainga that might be around the marae. So it's how can we support those papakainga, or if you've got I remember up when I was doing some work up in Hauraki a few years ago, there were cows on some Māori freehold land, basically just generating income for the marae. So whether or not you'd want to get a remission for that land and the amount that it generates for the marae, or if you're growing kai for the marae, those sorts of things, yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Nice one, Scott. Thank you for that. Anyone else?
And I just wanted to say that this is fantastic to have the opportunity to discuss these kinds of issues or get presented, and I have no doubt from our side at Hawariki we'll be in touch. Kia ora, Scott.
Thanks, Tony.
And I see Caitlin is going to send out your presentation, so we've got how we can contact you, Scott. So I imagine people will make some contact with you. Ka pai. Kia ora, Scott. Nice to see you again. Catch up.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, Alec.
Scott, have these regional council proposals been discussed with South Wairarapa District Council and how they can both align?
Not so much around the policy yet. So I have been working with your rating team to understand what the implications are, because as you know, you collect rates on behalf of the regional council, so we don't have a good rating database to know what we're talking about here. It's good for us to be able to have a conversation, particularly with the three Wairarapa councils and with Kapiti Coast District Council, where there's where the bulk of Māori freehold land in the region is. But yeah, more than happy to kind of connect more closely around how we can work on this.
I think it'd be very odd if we weren't on the same page here, both councils, that you are getting remission for some but not remission from the district council, and I'd love for that to align.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah,
thank you.
It's an unfortunate thing around the region, and it's kind of common across the country that not all councils have similar policies. So there's probably 6 or 7 different types of this policy in the Wellington region at the moment, but the alignment is greater in the criteria between the regional council and the 3 Wairarapa councils, at least. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll reach out to your policy team on that.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I was going to say, as far as I know, we are pretty well aligned, but there obviously there might be some differences that I'm not aware of. So it'd be really good to align these. And we are doing a rating review this year, so it's not a perfect opportunity. If we need to align something that isn't, we can do that.
Perfect.
Okay.
Ka pai. Ka kite, Scott. Unless there's any other questions. Go. Ka pai.
Great. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to minutes for confirmation, 6.1 pages 1 to 3. So are there any corrections needed to the Māori Standing Committee meeting on the 15th of February 2022? Has anybody got any corrections? Cool. Do I have a move that the minutes of the Māori Standing Committee meeting held on the 15th of February 2022 are a true and correct record? Do I have a seconder? Oh, kia ora, Jeppy. Kia ora, Karen. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Oh, I'm not voting. All those against, please raise your hand. The motion is carried. Chairperson report, page 4. The first thing is the topic number 1. So I was right. We will now move to item 7.1, the chairperson's report. Do I have a remover to receive the report? Kia ora, Alex. Do I have a seconder? Kia ora, Garrick. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against, please raise your hand. The motion is carried. So my report. So the first thing is the Waihinga Katona. So that one got a lovely presentation there, and that's been prepared by Sam Ludden. And the reason I wanted this one added in is because this is a project that's going to happen at Waihinga Centre. And what I was saying to Sam yesterday is that it's a really good example of a good engagement framework that has gone from start to finish, done very, very well. He's presented this as an artist who does installations. He's saying the right things, but he's also using the right tone for Māori. And I believe, Violet, you might be able to add to it because you're doing the weaving of the hinaki.
Yes.
Kia ora.
Yeah.
And
so Sam and I we were going through this last year. So and when he offered it to me, I just of course I'm going to help. It's a beautiful thing. So yeah. So it's going to be like a 2.3 metre hinaki. So it'll be done traditionally with using kariere, so supplejack and harakeke. And but we're going to use wire to reinforce it because it's going to be hanging in that, just to keep it strong. And he's going to have tuna coming out in the spiral, and they'll be coming up towards, spiraling out towards the, like a vortex, to the mouth opening of the hinaki. So yeah, it's going to be, it's beautiful. Yeah.
That's awesome. Kia ora, Violet. Actually did have a kōrero with Sam yesterday, and one of the things we did want to put to our committee whilst we had this in front of us is because they're not 100% certain on whether the tuna are travelling into the hinaki or exiting the hinaki. So, you know, and both have different whakaaro in terms of people. So that's
it's like in our with our waiata keihinga tuna. It's like the tuna represent not just our eels, but it's our culture and our people.
That's right. It's the metaphoric part of it, Is it the loss of our tuna and the loss of our culture, and you know, it's amazing. So no doubt you guys will keep working through that. And I guess if anyone on the committee wanted to have a kōrero with Violet about it, you know, there's the opportunity. Yeah. Ka pai. So that's what that one was about. The next one I had to talk about was the strategy noho dates, trying to put some dates down in concrete so that we can work towards our program. So 23rd of April or the 30th of April. Maybe everyone just have a wee think about that and email me back some dates that might suit you, and we'll try and drill it down to one of those days and go from there. And Alex.
Sorry, I think Karen has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Karen, go ahead.
I don't have my hand up. I just don't know how to put it back down again.
You must be more than.
Well, then I'll do it. I will do a question.
I can do it then.
Narita, if I could go back with the sculpture. So we have just to cross T's and dot I's. We have an approval from the Māori Standing Committee to proceed.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, that project has been worked through with Ngāti Hikawera and Mana Whenua. So it's not really our spot to say yes or no. That's happening anyway.
And it gives you're given its blessing. Because
absolutely,
as I mentioned, we don't do anything without your approval when it comes to this sort of thing. So
And how did that one come about? Like the fundings come about because the money was bequeathed by someone?
Yeah, there was a bequest to the Waihinga Trust, and even though they folded and that money's now sitting within an accounting council, we agreed that this was a very appropriate use for that money to enhance the building.
Ka pai. Yeah, so then on topic 2, strategy, noho dates. I've got 2 dates there. If everyone can just email and let me know what's going to suit the majority, and then we'll just run with that. The next part.
Where's it being held?
Okay, 2BA. It might be Paitumuka, it could be Hawariki. Be local though. Anything else? Any other questions? Ka pai. Now, topic 3 is te maruata. So I don't know if you guys are aware about te maruata, but it is anybody Māori that work for local government in any of those forums in a governance position. And so Māori Standing Committee will be elevating into a governance position if we're basically already there. But the criteria is our Māori elected members and we're appointed members. So I figured that that's the reason why we haven't been introduced to this committee in the past, Alex. Would that be right? The only thing is, I think it's really important that we have some representation in this mix, because the people that are in it are from all the councils across the country, all experiencing different things, and they all have information to share. And and I went into the meeting 2 weeks ago, and I just thought there's nothing here that I haven't heard already or experienced, and I just hit the ground running. So these are really relative, some of them are issues, but it's that governance level in local government. It's quite important for us to be there. So I guess my question is to council, can we get representation on there? Can it be the chair and the deputy or a willing member? Is there
Yeah, I mean, of course, I just need to look at the terms of reference of that Māori committee. But hey, I see incredible benefit for you being involved, and certainly from a heads up on what other councils are doing. Harry, do you have much experience with this?
No, I don't. But the issue which I'm just trying to explore is how lenient they are in terms of the membership, because currently it is elected officials, and technically the Māori Standing Committee are appointed. They're not elected. So I mean, ideally, there's 2 things. One is participating in the events they host, which is great, but the other is actually being on the committee itself. So we're trying to find a way in. Long story short.
So, I could probably speak to the chair and ask, what does it need to be for us to?
Yeah, that'd be great. Look, it'd probably better coming from Unirita than it would from us,
Yeah. Just as well, because she is my cousin.
Yeah. Oh well. Okay. Perfect. Even better.
Is that Benita? Is that Benita Bingham?
Benita Bingham. Yeah. So I do think it's a really good forum, and I think it would benefit us as a committee, especially as we're just about to, bring on our principal advisory Māori role. This is where we've got, and that person should probably be a part of that as well. Anyway, that's just a discussion.
Yep. So look, we fully support it. It's just a literally technically, how do we make it happen? So I think that idea of yours, Narita, of actually talking, we can particularly give the family connection. Go for it.
Ka pai. Now, next one. Where are we up to? Actions items report, page 15. What have we got? Again, so we haven't got the numbers on here now. Anyway, the first one, there's only 4 there. So strategy wānanga, so we've put out a couple of dates. We'll try and drill down those dates, and then we'll work towards a program. We'll call on a couple of people to help prepare some information and things like that, so that we've got a good cross section. I know we've got things like our grant applications to review. We've got our budget allocations to review. We've got the advisory role and the job description to review. So there's a lot for us to do. The next one is Papawai, or that will happen after our noho. That will definitely be an invitation to the trustees of Papawai Marae, Kohanui, Hawariki and Paitumukai members to see what our committee is creating and the direction we're going. the next part, it's only the last item, which is around grant applications, which will be at the noho, and the last terms of reference for further council recommendations. What was that one? Does anyone remember what that one was about? To be presented and discussed. Oh, that's another one for the noho, terms of reference. Is that right? Does that sound right? The terms of reference for the noho discussion?
Narita, when I've looked at the minutes on that one, it looks like it's before my time, but I think it's around connecting the terms of reference and the strategic goals of council and how the work that you guys might want to deliver line up.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. Yep.
Okay, yep, perfect. So is that for me and you? Is that a me and you thing, Amanda?
Yep.
I think it will be a really good topic for the noho as well.
Okay, perfect. All right, that's on our agenda for that. Oh, I didn't even say, do we have a mover to receive the actions item report, please? Kia ora, Alex. Do I have a seconder? Violet. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against, please raise your hand. The motion is carried. Right, and 8.2, that is the master plan report. That is Ute. And Harry, can you just pass on to Ree and Richard? Thank you very much for making some time, and Russell, but yeah, we'll wait till the 30th because Karen and I are going to log in on the 30th as well, and we'll be part of that discussion.
Of course, well, absolutely. Very happy to. Yeah.
8.3, income and expenditure report, page 25 to 29. Again, this is another one for our noho. And then we were talking about budget allocations. I think you spoke about that too, Gillies. Where do we put our pūtea? Some are a bit light, some could do with a bit more. And that's going to be a big part of our noho, is how do we spend our pūtea? What do we allocate, etc., etc. So do I have
just a bit of clarity too, Narita? One of the questions I have is how many times can a Māori apply for funding? Because I did make an application for funding for our whakapakoko, and it was declined because they said we'd already made an application in that financial year. So can you give me some clarification around what the policy is? So we can only make an application once every financial year. Is it just to that particular PO, or is it for everything?
I would have thought it's just to that particular PO.
Look, Narita, why don't we investigate that? I'll get Amanda to clarify that, because that doesn't seem right. Yeah, I'll find out. Yeah,
okay. I'm not sure if it falls under our grants policy or not, and then I just want to figure out where it sits.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, that would be the case on a council grant that we do once per year. But I would say that the Māori Standing Committee should have a different terms of reference on their grants.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Okay, kapai, that'd be great. Amanda and Harry, if you could have a little investigation into that and let Gillies know and inform us, that'll be super. Any other questions, whānau? We've been very good for time. So do I have a mover to receive the income and expenditure statement for the period ending 28th of February 2022? Karen, kia ora. Do I have a seconder? Kia ora, Tony. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against, please raise your hand. The motion is carried. Page 30 is the officers' report, and it wasn't for the fact that there was quite a bit in here about Featherston. Has anybody else got something they want to discuss? I'm just sort of thinking about the dog pound at the moment, and I've just got a partai here around the dog pound. So initially, Alex, you came to Paitimokai and asked about putting it at the golf course at the farthest end and down the first runway, which we thought, well, there can't be any harm in that. And then it was within weeks it would move location. It was going right behind our sheds, and now it's only a possibility and it may not happen. Or is that what the latest is?
Yeah, look, my meeting with you was merely to sound out the whether or not it was applicable or or objectionable. We didn't want to open up, pass that on to council officers to explore if it was no-go from the beginning. So from then on, I'm actually, as a governor, I'm outside of the operations on that. So Harry may have more information.
I don't, but in terms of the specific location, I hadn't realised it had changed. But we'd obviously be talking to Nerida before we did anything or went anywhere. But we do need to land a location for the dog pound. That's our issue. We've been struggling to find a suitable location. But there's a lot of land there. Just a matter of finding a suitable place. And it does look very promising because of access to utilities and that kind of thing.
Sorry, Tony, did you have a part?
It's actually more of a general question, and it's probably, applies to all of the information that we get given. I'm just wondering if there's some way that in all of the reports that we get, that there's some way to cross-reference that to the terms of reference, so we know. It was actually mentioned at the last meeting, but was only couched, I think, to the specific report. But I think the principle applies across the board, that anything we get, the first thing we need to know is how does that relate to our terms of reference. And I just think it's a habit because, it's taken a while to get our terms of reference as part of our BAU. So I think it would be really valuable for us when we're trolling through things to have some of the key things highlighted to us. So I know you guys put a lot of work and effort into the preparation of these reports, but how might we get visibility of specific things that would relate to specifically to the Māori Standing Committee, for example? That would be helpful.
Rita, Amanda's got a hand up there. She might be able to help Tony.
And Gillies, Amanda, then Gillies.
Kia ora, Nerida. We've been talking quite a lot about how we improve the quality of our reporting to all of our boards and committees and making them as user-friendly as possible. And one of the things that I've noticed with other local government organisations in the region is they have a standing statement around how it impacts tangata whenua, for example, and we aren't very good at making our report writers do that. But I think, Tony, you hit the nail on the head. It would make real sense if we had a section because we have the same report goes to the relevant committees, and it's a lot of work if we have to adjust reports for different committees. But having a clear statement in there that the writer has to put in, doesn't matter whether it goes to Māori Standing Committee or FAR, that understanding the impact on tangata whenua and the terms of, and potentially we could put the terms of reference for the committee in there as well, which would it would solve that in one hit, I think, if that's acceptable. And we could trial that and see what you guys think and work with you on what that might look like, even if that could be our job at the noho.
Ka pai, yeah. Okay, ka pai. Gillies?
Yeah, look, I just want to raise an issue in the report under the Partnership Operations Water Report relating to the Papua Road wastewater pipeline. I'm saying it's now live, but I understand that when they were doing that, the area outside of the pa, Marae, which was lawned, was changed to metal and sort of gravel, I suppose, which is fine, but it looks unfinished now. And I guess our proposal is when they go back to fix up the road, because I think it's sinking the pipeline, could they find a way to sort of asphalt that piece of gravel that they've constructed?
Gillies, would you mind just would you mind just dropping me an email on that, and I can chase that up directly with our team? Might make it easier. Yep. Okay.
Right, I'll do that.
Yep, that make we can save a whole lot of time and hassle by getting onto it straight away. Okay, mate. Happy to help.
Ka pai. Anything else at the moment? So the dog pounds. You just keep us in the loop with that discussion. You know, that's all we would like as Paetimoko, because that's right next door to us, and we've got no problem with assisting the community and finding somewhere for the dogs to be. That's no problem. But when it's gone from one conversation and it's here, and then the next thing it's only word of mouth, and the fact that we saw the contractor driving around the paddock. It's been shifted, and the idea was to move it somewhere that ended up being closer to our buildings. But it's all just a discussion. It's all for conversation. That's what
we're happy to do that, Rita. Look, I'm sorry. I apologise. We didn't communicate, but it's a lot better than that. We usually do.
Okay. Right. Has anybody else got anything to add from the officer's report? Garrick. Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to express my concern about the water report, which is dated January 2022. I know there's been reports since then, but my question really to you, Nerita, and to the Standing Committee is the level of consultation that's going on between Wellington Water. And now I know, you know, I've got a pet concern about Wellington Water, and their track record at the moment is not impressive. I'm just worried that with a report which is now basically 3 months old, is our iwi and our Standing Committee been involved in these decisions going forward? That's my question.
I'd say no. I'd say there's very, very little communications. So I sit on the Wellington Water Committee for South Wairarapa District Council, and Andrea Rutini sits with me as the observer for Kahununu. And that's only in that set up like that, constructed like that, because we are pushing for them to formalise Andrea as a member of that committee. So initially we didn't have Andrea, so I was, I guess you could say, a placeholder. And now it's so important for mana whenua to be on that committee that Andrea, and we've also managed to communicate with Horipo to be the Rangitane representative. So there's 2 people to be formalised on that committee that would represent the interests of mana whenua. And so far I'd say that Wellington Water's communications have been poor. I mean, Andrea, you might like to add to it as well. Yes, you're busy. So yeah, no, I haven't had any updates, and they're not very good at keeping us abreast of what's happening in the committee and so on and so forth. I'm just concerned there seems to be a lot of misunderstanding, and I say we go to these meetings and we find out in a statement, obviously I'm just quoting Alex, his last statement, there definitely is a problem, and I would like to raise it through Māori Standing, and I see Alex has got his hand up, so I'll give it a break, but it's one of those things we keep on hammering on it at, and we keep on missing the point for some reason. So thanks, Garrett. You, Alex.
Yeah, certainly, Nerita, I wasn't aware that you were of that, of your attempts, and if you could let me know, I can push it from a committee level to just make it happen. All right. Secondly, I would love to hear some feedback from the Māori Standing Committee on how, not how we, how we improve it, how Wellington Water improves it, and what extra information you would see as desirable, and then we can make those changes. We're in quite intense discussions with Wellington Water at the moment about the way they communicate things, and we can certainly add this to the list. Is that a fair call, Harry?
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, please send us ideas, and we'll make it happen.
Should be where, yeah, Alex and I work, and Harry working on this. We're trying to get some solutions. So please give us some feedback. We'd like to see move it forward. Thank you.
Got it, Garrick. Anyone else on the officer's report? So do I have a mover to receive the report? Kia ora, Alex. Do I have a seconder? Kia ora, Gillies. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And all those against, please raise your hand. The motion is carried. Now, before we go to close off for karakia, I've just got one more. I don't know how we've missed this one, Caitlin. But this is the Charles Rooking Carter Awards and the South Wairarapa District Council Community Awards. Did everyone get that paperwork? Because if you didn't all get it, okay. So I have to say, I don't remember being saying yes to being on this committee. That was 2 years ago, but anyway, seems I have. But this is around recognising people in our community that do good things for community, you know, whether it's a rangatahi, whether it's someone who just does stuff in the background. Like I'm thinking of yeah, the guy, not Alan Brooks, but the other guy Brooks that just goes around and mows lawns and things in Featherston. He's always there. People can rely on him. Good person. Yeah, the whole family have been good. So does the Māori Standing Committee want to participate in awards for recognising community? I suppose it might be more like questions for you guys, and this is probably not the right forum to ask questions, but at some point, you know, these awards that the council does is to recognise people within our community in their efforts that they do. So I don't know whether we leave this one for our noho. Does anyone have some sort of thoughts on how to manage this one? Just no. Alex?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been very frustrated, and unfortunately, it's been COVID that has stopped us from doing our civic awards. But we are, I think Barbara is gearing up to actually get nominations and start this process rolling. Certainly should be going out to both the Māori Standing Committee and all the community boards for nominations. I mean, it costs us very little to recognise, but it's very important, I think, for the recipients. So if you can, if we do as a standing committee put forward name.
Put forward a name. Oh, Alex froze.
Alex, drop your image.
Awards or
oh,
can you hear me now?
Can now.
Cool. It's like sorry, I think it's the low cloud. So I think it's very important for the community that we are giving out these awards and recognizing them. You tell us again how you want this to run from your nominations, or whether you'd like a separate category, or you think it just goes all into the pot of nominations.
Yeah, well, that's a discussion. Oh, Hirawini, did you want to add to that, Kōrero?
Just a whakaaro that came up. I think, you know, I definitely support the kaupapa. I think it'd mean a lot if, you know, the award came from the respective organisations that we represent, you know, our marae, our iwi, our community groups, rather than the Māori Standing Committee. I just think that's my personal whakaaro, if there was to be a name or sponsor or something. No, that's just my whakaaro about that.
Ka pai. Tony?
I think maybe a new category, if there was scope to include, there'd be some thinking around that. But I just kind of look at it, and it's, you know, there's some things that align with our PO, I mean, environmental, but how might we reflect kaupapa Māori potentially? I've seen it done in other awards, you know, where there is a category. So we could put some thought into what that could look like.
Yeah, I mean, there's 7 categories there. That's quite a lot, I suppose, but yeah, I think somewhere where there's sort of contributions to mātauranga Māori in terms of te taiao, I'd like to see something like that for our rangatahi. But then, you know, it's like whānau nominating, or marae putting nominations in there, and then our people turning up to, just in case they win the award. You know, sometimes it's a little barriers there, but it's for whakaaro, and we can talk about that at the noho. I'll add it to the many things we'll be discussing at the noho. Ka pai. So I think we're going to be closing with our karakia. Again, I'm going to put that out to, Gillies, did you have something?
Yeah, just a question, an update on the Principal Māori Advisor role. Where are we at with it? We've got a couple of young warriors here standing by to do the interpretation for the advertisement, but haven't heard anything yet.
I can speak to that. Is that okay, Nerida? So we thank you, Gillies, for the translators connections, and Hirawini, nice to meet you, and I potentially will be in contact. We just had a meeting a couple of weeks ago now with Nerida around tidying up some of the content before it went for translation. So it's just a timing thing, me having enough, getting my act together. So I apologize. But yeah, that's on my to-do list to get the translation done.
to keep moving that one forward. Thanks, Amanda. And I'll just quickly add, so when it came to talking about our officers' report, and we had that discussion, Amanda suggested trialling some new wording so that the report reflects tangata whenua. So Andrea's tautoking that with a let's trial it. And also she has added in here, as far as Wellington Water, she says a terrible engagement, the worst she's ever experienced. Kapai, so I think that's everything. Although the one thing that she has got up here around the proposal with Sam Ludden is there's no, for including scaffolding. I don't know, Violet, you might want to have a chat to him.
Yeah, we're fine. We'll make sure that the installation will be all included within our funding envelope.
Good. So
yeah, because I think at the time he wrote this original one and sent it in, he hadn't added a few other things on there that we've come up with since though. But yeah.
Oh, awesome. Kapai. Again, I'm going to throw, if that's everything tonight, whānau, kapai. I'm going to throw it around the room again for our karakia whakakapi. Would anyone like to offer a karakia for us? Kia ora, Hiruini.
Tira tēnā tātou e tika ana kia karakia e pai ai ngā mahi ke mua te arawaro. Whitiwhiti a te ora, whitiwhiti a te ora ka ea ki runga ka ea ki raro. Kia māma kia wātea te hinengaro, te wairua, te tinana. Kia māma kia wātea te huarahi imu i a tātou katoa. Tuturu o whiti whakamaua kia tīna. Tīna, haumi e hui e ai ki e.
Kia ora. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for all of your contributions tonight. Ka kite.
Kia ora, everyone.
Ka kite.
Māori e.
Ka kite.